1983 Ford Ranger, America's compact pickup pioneer. Is the 1983 Ford Ranger still relevant in today's world? It's a fair question in a market flooded with high-tech, oversized trucks boasting touchscreen everything and more sensors than a spaceship. But the 1983 Ranger wasn't built to dazzle with gimmicks. It was built to work. It was built to last. And in doing so, it became more than just Ford's answer to the growing compact truck trend. It became a symbol of American resilience, grit, and simplicity. Today, over 4 decades later, the question isn't whether the Ranger can compete with modern trucks. It's how it continues to command respect across generations. This is not just a story about horsepower and payloads. This is about a truck that helped redefine an entire segment, that carved its place in the hearts of working folks and collectors alike. The 1983 Ford Ranger wasn't just another vehicle. It was a pioneer. There's a reason why the 1983 Ford Ranger has become a legend. This workhorse truck is more than just a vehicle. It's a testament to American ingenuity and ruggedness. Born out of a shifting automotive landscape, it emerged at a time when drivers needed something smaller, more fuel efficient, yet still tough enough to haul, tow, and tackle a hard day's work. In an era recovering from oil crises and economic uncertainty, the Ranger offered a kind of modest dependability that spoke to the American spirit. It was compact, but not weak, affordable, but not cheap, and durable enough to survive decades of road wear, field work, and family use. In short, it delivered what was promised, and then some. When Ford introduced the Ranger in 1983, it wasn't their first venture into compact pickups. Before it, Ford had relied on rebadged Mazdas to compete in the small truck market. But the Ranger was different. It was the first compact pickup that Ford designed and built entirely in-house. This was no rebadge. This was a homegrown machine meant to compete head-on with the likes of the Chevy S10 and Toyota's small pickups. And compete it did, offering buyers a home-built truck with the toughness and personality that American drivers were craving. One of the most defining characteristics of the 1983 Ranger was its design. Compact yet muscular, it had the kind of no-nonsense look that meant business. Its squared-off edges, signature front grille, and straight, clean lines reflected the era's utilitarian design ethos. This wasn't a truck for showboating. It was a truck for hauling lumber, loading tools, and getting to work no matter the weather. Available in both short and long bed configurations, with regular cab and extended cab options, it gave buyers a truck that was both versatile and easy to live with. Under the hood, the 1983 Ford Ranger offered several engine options, starting with a humble 2.0-liter 4-cylinder, moving up to a 2.3-liter inline-4, and topping off with a 2.8-liter V6 for those who needed more power. It wasn't built to burn rubber, but it had the torque and low-end grunt needed for real-world driving, towing, hauling, climbing, and commuting. You could pair it with a 4-speed or 5-speed manual transmission or opt for a 3-speed automatic, giving drivers the freedom to choose what best suited their needs. But the Ranger was more than just the sum of its mechanical parts. What truly set it apart was its reliability. Owners quickly learned that this was a truck that could take a beating. From the Midwest farms to mountain trails out west, the Ranger built a reputation for going the distance. It wasn't uncommon to hear stories of Rangers with over 200,000 miles on the odometer, still starting up without a fuss and still hauling with no complaints. That kind of dependability doesn't go unnoticed, and it doesn't get forgotten. Inside, the 1983 Ranger reflected the no-frills mindset of its era. The interior was straightforward and functional, with durable materials designed to withstand dirt, dust, and daily wear. Bench seats or bucket seats, a simple gauge cluster, and easy-to-reach controls made it clear. This truck was about doing the job, not distracting from it. Still, Ford included enough options: air conditioning, upgraded sound systems, and trim packages like the XLS, to give buyers a sense of customization and comfort without sacrificing practicality. What's especially interesting is how the Ranger's story has evolved over time. When it first launched, it was praised for its economy, size, and work ethic. But as the years passed and the compact truck market shifted, the early Ranger models started to become something else entirely, a badge of authenticity. For collectors and enthusiasts, the 1983 Ranger isn't just a vintage truck, it's a statement. A reminder of when trucks were simpler, more honest, and built to get you home even if the road was rough. Even in today's truck market, dominated by oversized, over-accessorized beasts, the original Ranger holds its own. Sure, it doesn't have heated seats, a 12-inch touchscreen, or autonomous driving features. But what it does have is character. It tells a story with every dent and every mile. It reminds us of an era where trucks weren't lifestyle accessories. They were tools. They were companions on job sites, on fishing trips, and in backyards filled with Saturday projects. It's no surprise that the 1983 Ranger has found a second life among restorers and custom builders. Some keep them stock, respecting the integrity of the original design. Others modify them, lowering them, lifting them, swapping engines, to create modern-day versions of a timeless truck. But whether stock or customized, the heart of the Ranger stays the same. It's still a compact powerhouse with a big spirit. It's still a truck that proves you don't need bells and whistles to make an impact. Just purpose, durability, and a little bit of that old-school cool. In many ways, the Ranger anticipated what modern buyers would eventually want again, a smaller, more efficient pickup that doesn't compromise on capability. When Ford reintroduced the Ranger to the US market decades later, it did so by tapping into that legacy. But no matter how advanced the new models become, they'll always owe a debt to that humble 1983 original, the one that blazed the trail and proved that big things can come in compact packages. So yes, the 1983 Ford Ranger is still relevant. Maybe not in the way newer trucks are, with their smart tech and luxury trims, but in the way that really counts. In dependability, in history, in soul. It's a survivor of changing times and shifting tastes, and it still shows up, on the road, in garages, and in the memories of those who drove one into the ground and smiled doing it. It's more than a truck. It's a piece of American automotive history that continues to inspire, reminding us that greatness doesn't always need to shout. Sometimes it just needs to start up, roll forward, and get the job done. In 1983, Ford took a bold step into the compact pickup truck market, a space that had been steadily gaining momentum thanks to the rising popularity of smaller, more fuel-efficient utility vehicles. The American truck scene was still dominated by full-size haulers, but the winds were shifting. The oil crises of the 1970s and the changing needs of urban and rural drivers alike signaled that there was a niche waiting to be filled, a niche that craved something smaller, leaner, but just as capable. That's where the 1983 Ford Ranger entered the picture, answering the call not just as a competitor, but as a game changer. Ford's vision for the Ranger was clear: deliver a homegrown, American-built compact pickup that didn't compromise on performance, strength, or style. Up until then, Ford had dabbled in the segment through partnerships, most notably with the Ford Courier, a rebadged Mazda pickup. But by the early 80s, Ford knew it was time to roll up its sleeves and bring something original to the table. The result was the Ranger, a tough, nimble, and smartly engineered machine built from the ground up to serve farmers, tradespeople, outdoor adventurers, and the everyday driver who needed a little more grit than a sedan could offer. The 1983 Ranger's design said it all. It wasn't trying to be flashy or ostentatious. It was straightforward, rugged, and ready to get dirty. Its boxy shape, flat body panels, and unmistakable square grille gave it a no-nonsense appearance that stood out against the Kia imports of the time. It looked strong because it was. From its pronounced wheel arches to the well-proportioned cab and bed, the Ranger's design communicated strength and utility. The grille alone, with its bold horizontal bars and oval Ford badge, became an instant signature. The cab was compact but functional, designed with ergonomics in mind. It offered good visibility, easy access, and a simple yet effective dashboard layout. Even the door handles and mirrors were designed for utility over style, but the result was a vehicle that looked good because it worked hard. This truck was aimed at the kind of buyer who didn't need a massive, fuel-thirsty rig but still required something that could carry gear, tow trailers, or cruise down dirt roads without a second thought. It hit that sweet spot between affordability, practicality, and capability. With a starting price that made sense for working-class Americans, the 1983 Ranger quickly proved that smaller trucks could still carry big weight, in both literal and symbolic terms. It filled a void for those who wanted something dependable without the excess, something compact without being compromised. Under the hood, power and durability. The real charm of the 1983 Ranger lay beneath the sheet metal. Ford equipped this truck with a variety of engines to suit different needs and budgets, but one option in particular became legendary: the 2.3L four-cylinder engine. Known for its bulletproof reliability, this inline-four power plant wasn't built to win races, it was built to last. Owners praised its simplicity, ease of maintenance, and consistent performance over hundreds of thousands of miles. It became the workhorse engine, outliving many of the vehicles it powered. Other available engines included a 2.0L four-cylinder and a torquey 2.8L V6 for those needing more power. Whether you were hauling tools to a job site or loading up camping gear for a weekend in the woods, these engines delivered. The V6, in particular, gave the Ranger a surprising amount of grunt, making it a favorite among early off-roaders and DIY enthusiasts. Towing capacity for the 1983 Ranger varied depending on configuration, but it could handle up to 3,000 pounds, a solid figure for a compact pickup of its era. Hauling was equally impressive thanks to a robust suspension system that was as tough on gravel and mud as it was smooth on pavement. For those who dared to venture off-road, the Ranger's four-wheel drive system, available on select models, offered dependable traction and climbing capability that turned it into a trail-ready beast. It wasn't fancy, but it got the job done. And for a truck this size, that was exactly what buyers wanted. Durability was baked into every inch of the Ranger. From the frame to the drivetrain, Ford engineered the 1983 model to survive daily abuse. This was the kind of truck that could get dinged, scratched, and mud-caked and still keep moving forward. Its parts were built to endure, and when something did wear out, replacement was often cheap and straightforward, something backyard mechanics deeply appreciated. That level of simplicity and access to parts made the Ranger not only a reliable ride, but also one of the most reparable and modifiable trucks in its class. The legacy, from work truck to cult classic. The impact of the 1983 Ranger was immediate, but its true legacy grew over time. It laid the foundation for the Ranger nameplate, which would go on to become one of Ford's most enduring and beloved truck lines. The Ranger's reputation for reliability, low cost of ownership, and mechanical simplicity carried forward into future generations, turning it into a trusted name for millions of drivers. But there's something uniquely special about that first model year, the one that started it all. As the decades rolled on, the 1983 Ranger transformed from everyday utility vehicle to cult classic. Enthusiasts began to see its vintage charm, and customization became a widespread trend. Some dropped the suspension and added custom wheels for a sleek, low-slung look. Others lifted it, threw on off-road tires, and turned it into a trail-crushing machine. From V8 engine swaps to full-body restorations, the 1983 Ranger became a canvas for creativity. Classic truck shows today often feature at least one lovingly restored 1983 Ranger, its original badges polished to a gleam, the interior retrofitted with modern touches while still respecting the vintage vibe. Collectors seek out these early models for their raw character and historical significance. The 1983 Ranger wasn't just Ford's first compact truck, it was a turning point in American automotive design. It brought new energy to a class that would only grow in popularity, paving the way for trucks that balanced toughness with everyday practicality. Finding a 1983 Ranger today. If you're feeling the pull of nostalgia or simply want to own a piece of pickup truck history, finding a 1983 Ford Ranger today isn't impossible, but it does take a bit of patience and know-how. The good news? The Ranger's popularity means that there's a healthy market out there, with listings appearing regularly on sites like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Bring a Trailer, and dedicated classic car websites. Local car clubs, vintage truck shows, and Ford enthusiast forums can also be great places to connect with sellers or get tips on where to look. When you do find one, it's important to inspect a few key factors. Mileage is a big consideration, of course, but it's not the only one. A well-maintained Ranger with higher mileage may serve you better than a low-mileage one that's been neglected. Look for signs of rust, particularly around the frame, cab corners, and wheel wells. These are common trouble spots. Check the engine for leaks, strange noises, and exhaust smoke. Don't forget the transmission either. Smooth shifting is essential, especially for manual models. Restoration needs vary. Some buyers prefer a project truck they can rebuild from the ground up, while others want something road-ready with minimal effort. The aftermarket scene for these trucks is still alive, so sourcing parts, while sometimes requiring effort, is far from impossible. In fact, working on an older Ranger can be a deeply rewarding experience, thanks to its simple layout and easily accessible components. To identify a well-maintained 1983 Ranger, pay attention to originality. Are the badges, trim, and interior pieces intact? Has it been repainted, and if so, was the job done professionally? Is the frame solid and straight? A little research goes a long way. VIN decoding, service history, and even a conversation with the seller about how the truck was used can offer critical insights into its true condition. Closing thoughts: a lasting legacy. There's a special kind of magic in the 1983 Ford Ranger, a feeling that modern vehicles, for all their bells and whistles, often fail to capture. It represents a time when trucks were honest and functional, when they didn't need flashy branding or massive proportions to earn your respect. The Ranger earned it the hard way, mile by mile, job by job, generation by generation. Its enduring appeal lies not just in its reliability or design, but in what it stands for. It stands for grit, for self-reliance, for the kind of mechanical purity that doesn't need constant digital upgrades. It stands for the people who rolled up their sleeves, threw their gear in the back, and got on with their day. The 1983 Ranger is as much a symbol of American work ethic as it is a machine. Today, it continues to inspire. Enthusiasts restore them. Collectors seek them. Mechanics respect them. And every once in a while, you'll see one still rumbling down the road, paint faded, bed scratched, engine humming like it always has, still doing its job after 40 years. That's not just reliability. That's legacy. So whether you're a lifelong Ford fan or someone just now discovering the charm of this compact classic, the 1983 Ford Ranger deserves your attention. It's more than just the first in a line. It's the blueprint of a philosophy that values strength, simplicity, and staying power. And in a world that's constantly evolving, there's something truly refreshing about a truck that hasn't forgotten where it came from. Got a 1983 Ranger story? Whether you drove one back in the day or just picked one up to restore, we want to hear from you. Share your memories, mods, or restoration journeys. Because the Ranger community is built on stories like yours, stories of a little truck that could, and still does,